All right, this is Startup Monterey Bay Connect. We are the CSUMB Institute for Innovation and Economic Development. My name is Brad Barbeau. I'm the director of it. And we are doing Connect tonight, as we frequently do, in combination with DART. And we'll talk a little bit about what DART means in just a moment. Tonight, we've got some companies doing clean energy. So we'll hear from them. They've got some really cool stuff that they're doing. We also have Helle Petersen, who's the director of the Wet Center over in Fresno. They get a lot of rain over there, so they call it the Wet Center, but we're here to be the Dry Center. The Water, Energy, and Technology Center at Fresno, which is a great resource for companies working in those areas. So Helle will tell us about those. We have Wyatt Maysey from Taylor Farms talking about an amazing project they're doing up in San Juan Bautista. Gabe Ruiz with Central Coast Community Energy, bringing clean energy to the community on the Central Coast. And Bill Sheblin of Mavericks Microgrids. And microgrids are the grids of the future, really important. So I'm excited to hear about that. Now, we got to start with, we keep throwing around this acronym called DART. So what does DART stand for anyway? So does it stand for, decide which of these is the right answer. Does it stand for the double asteroid redirection test? Does it stand for drones, automation, and robotics technology? Or maybe days away, restricted, or transferred? That's a mouthful. I don't even know what that means.
That's a code term.
Is it dynamic advertising, reporting, and targeting? Or could it even be all of the above? But really, only B really counts, right? For our purposes, it's all about drones, automation, and robotics technology, or DART, which is doing some really cool stuff. So let me introduce Chris Bly, who is one of the founders of DART, to talk a little bit about what's upcoming with DART.
Hi, everybody. Chris Bly, and I'm one of the founding members of DART. And the commas always get switched around a little bit there, but the correct one is below. It's drone, automation, and robotics technologies. And I get it confused sometimes too out there. So
someday I'll learn about it. I'm the only president of the board.
So yeah, so we've been working on this for several years, and so it's bringing together industry, academia, and governments, kind of breaking down the silos so we can kind of work across these different entities. And so the main thing I wanted to do is stand up and let you all know about a symposium that we're putting on, and here's the flyer for that. And it's happening at Cal State University, or Shari over here is waving them, so we have them. But it's happening here November 30th and December 1st. And so we have some really exciting speakers and panels, and we're working on this, pretty much on this region for economic development and workforce development. So we're doing a lot of fun things with Joby Aviation and technologies and entrepreneurship. So yeah, that's what we're doing. And thank you, Brad.
Thank you. So November 30th and December 1st, the place to be is at the University Center on the CSUMB campus at the DART Symposium for this year. I've got a slide about that a little bit later, so we'll remind you multiple times. We don't want you to forget that one. Cool. All right, I want to thank our sponsors, and there's a lot of folks behind making this happen. The Economic Development Administration, the James Irvine Foundation, which has been really central in helping DART turn into a real organization here and really begin to have an outsized impact in the region. The Blue Tech Valley Accelerator, which when Helle speaks, she'll probably mention the Blue Tech Valley Accelerator also, because that's a great resource. Bert, where's Bert? There you are. Are you in Blue Tech now?
No, friendly associated.
Okay.
That's spending time in Chicago and here. So
Got it. Okay.
great guys. So I recommend it.
Yeah, they're great people. PG&E, sorry for folks with community, we got to get you up there too. Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, which is having their State of the Region conference is this coming Friday. So you may want to look at being there. There's some great speakers there. Also, White Summers Law Firm, and where's Tom? There's Tom, representative with White Summers. Say a little bit about what White Summers does.
Yeah, sure. Real quick. We're a boutique corporate firm, been around for about 25 years, representing emerging companies. Founders are refugees, if you will, from some of the larger known firms, Cooley, Fenwick, ones like that. Represent primarily emerging companies and financing, mergers, acquisitions, and day-to-day stuff. Cool. And I'm here in, my office is actually in Monterey. We're in Silicon Valley, Portland, Oregon, and go figure, Budapest, Hungary. A lot of work coming out of Eastern Europe for us right now.
Very cool. So yeah, if you've got a company, you're getting started, you need to get your company set up, you need to get your company funded, you should be talking to Tom. He is a great resource. Wells Fargo, Bank of America, etc. So there's our speakers for the evening. Helle Petersen, I mentioned, Bill Shevlin, Gabe Ruiz, Joe Fletcher, also with Mavericks, and Wyatt Maysey, who's actually, this is really fun because Wyatt was a student here back when, in the first few years that I was teaching here, and he graduated, and I saw his name come up as a speaker, and I thought, wow, that looks really familiar. And I saw his picture and said, whoa, I know Wyatt, this is great. All right, but we always start these with the monthly news quiz. So I'm going to hand the steering wheel over to Mary Jo Zink, who's going to find out whether you're paying attention or not. All yours.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. So every month I try to find a couple of questions of what's happening among the local entrepreneur community. I look at what's on our website and what we're posting on our social media, what other entrepreneur programs are doing locally. I also look at some of the newspapers and just see what are the cool, what's happening out there in entrepreneurs. So let's see if you're paying attention to local entrepreneur news. So there was one of our previous Startup Challenge winners just received an innovation award from the Global Seafood Alliance. Can you think of a pretty cool company that's doing something in the seafood world or sea world that might have gotten recognition? Yes.
Was it Scoot Science?
Close, but no. Chris, did you raise?
But that was my guess. No, I didn't.
Okay.
I was guessing Scoot.
Did you have some, Michelle?
The aquarium?
No. Any other guesses? Cruise phone. Because they are converting shrimp shells into a packing material. Pretty cool. Okay, what local organization hosted 10 startups on a tour of the local Green Gate Fresh company to learn about processing plant technology? So think about some of the organizations that might be in the ag world that might be helping startups connect with ag companies. Any idea? Yes.
Who do that? Someone else? I don't want to. Western Growers?
Yes, that's okay. The Western Growers Center for Innovation and Technology, they're in Salinas. If you're in the ag tech field and you want to connect with some of the big ag companies, they're the people to help you do that. Okay, so finally, this was in one of the local papers. There's a family-friendly brewery that opened up in downtown Salinas. Did anybody see that, or has anybody gone to it? You have, already got one. Anybody else is familiar with the Salinas?
Was it on Grotto Street?
In Salinas? No. Any other company ideas?
Not Other Brother then.
No, it's not Other Brother. Okay. So it's called Brew and Crew. And they, it's founded by a Latina entrepreneur, Marlene Garcia. So there was a nice story on NBC later, the end of last month, about, I'm blocking everything, about this company and about her experience setting this up. So check them out. They've got some good beers with a little Mexican, you've been there? What else? There's a little Mexican flavor.
It's got a unique decor as well. It's a fun atmosphere, definitely.
Okay. Well, that's it for the local news. Next month, pay attention.
You gotta read the news. You gotta stay caught up here. Let's look at some upcoming events coming down the road. Fresno State. We're hearing a lot about Fresno State tonight, a little more than we usually do, but that's okay. They're a partner of ours. The Center for Irrigation Technology, their 6th annual Ag Tech Day happening October 28th. So that should be 2 weeks from this Friday, if I have that right. You can reach out to them at, there's the URL. If you have a question, check in with us. We'll get you a link to that. So you can go to that. That's a great event. You just heard from Chris about the Monterey Bay DART Symposium, 2022 DART Symposium, November 30th, December 1st. We're looking at the innovation workforce. A key to having this air mobility happen in this region is we got to have a whole new workforce for it. We got to have pilots, we got to have mechanics, we got to have manufacturing. This is cutting edge manufacturing that Joby's doing. It's amazing what that's made out of, because that thing's got to be as light as possible. So that's what we'll be looking at. This is really about some major economic development happening in this region, right in this area near Marina, and all sorts of opportunities for entrepreneurship to happen. So be there. All right. And next month we'll be back probably here. We'll let you know where exactly we're going to be. This is, we've been moving around and having it at different locations, which has been fun. So November 8th, we're always the second Tuesday of each month. Our theme, environmental materials innovation, but we've got some other companies, Carnot Compression, which is making very energy efficient air compressors. They just opened a funding round, so they're going to come and talk to us about their funding round in November. And Jaja, what are you going to talk about in November?
I'd love to talk about my robotics startup at that time.
So say a little bit about what your company is.
Sure. So my name is Helle, and I'm a local here. I went to PG High a couple decades ago. Went to Cal for education, and brought some technology, robotics technology back. We're actually gonna go stop by the Portola Hotel on Monday to see if we can alleviate some of the labor shortages in order to facilitate better service, in addition to allowing more people to catch this robotic wave. It's just a different way of engaging with the economy and contributing to it and consuming it. So
Very cool.
Yeah.
And a very creative way he's putting his company together, and he'll talk about that in November. Right. So it's time for me to stop talking and hand the steering wheel over to some other folks here so you can hear from them about their companies. We're going to start with Bill Sheblin and Joe Fletcher of Mavericks Microgrids. I love that, Mavericks Microgrids. You're going to tell us what that's all about. So, oh, you're right in front of me. I always look up toward the back and I can't find the people in front of me. So
We had to figure out how to find our way down, so we got close.
yeah, there we go. Okay, it's all yours. Take it away.
All right. Left, right, I assume.
Let's see. Let me make sure that I think your slides are right in line here. Does that look like you know that's?
That's us.
No, it is you. Yes. Okay, we're all good. Right is forward, left is back. All right. Do-si-do and all that.
So we had to add some drones in. So we provide microgrids, but really it's we refer to it as green infrastructure. And what we do essentially is take your consumption of energy and fuel and convert it into infrastructure. And we're typically on site. What that means is we work with groups like 3CE and the connection and being able to bring that power, that fuel consumption at the site. We can kind of finance anything from an infrastructure perspective. So we work with a lot of different technology providers. We've got solar paver providers. We can put solar on rooftops. We have some hydrogen technology that we're working on that creates fuel for vehicles, and we can go all the way into water and waste treatment as part of that general infrastructure. And you know, we view infrastructure as community-based projects, whether it's at a commercial and industrial site, all the way up to an entire community. And this is kind of a overview example of what we see as what we're calling a fueling station or a truck stop of the future, where your community infrastructure for your charging and your vehicle fueling actually becomes the hub or the energy hub for the community. What people don't realize, or some people don't recognize, is that the amount of power that's required from a fueling infrastructure perspective is much larger than an entire city in some cases. You know, especially when you're talking about larger vehicles, whether it's hydrogen fueling or electrical charging, those sites will consume more power than an entire city in some cases. And so you need to be able to produce that power and provide that power at the site, but that means you've got excess power that can then be distributed into the grid and into the community. And we also are doing some waste to hydrogen projects where we're taking railroad ties, plastics, and wood biomass waste, crop fiber waste. It gets converted into a biochar product through a process called pyrolysis and gasification. We create a biochar that's good for the soil, can be added to building materials, and then we're creating what's called a carbon negative hydrogen or a green hydrogen. Carbon negative basically means that hydrogen has a negative carbon index. So when it's put into a fuel, the index of that is actually the direct opposite of a gasoline or a diesel. And to give you an idea, one facility will process about 33,000 tons of material a year. We'll create almost 10,000 tons of biochar. That creates about 30,000 tons of carbon credits, creates about 450,000 kilograms of hydrogen. That hydrogen can go into Class 8 vehicles that will transport those vehicles about 5 million miles a year. The offset at one fueling location, if you converted a standard truck stop into hydrogen and electric fueling, is equal to about 120,000 tons of offset per year. So it's fairly significant, and we can do it at a cost that's typically equal to existing fuels, whether that's electricity or hydrogen, or less. In some markets like California, we actually can provide it at a lower cost than what the fuel consumption is, sometimes by 30, 50, 60%. And most of these projects are financed with tax credits. So everybody's, you know, kind of heard of the Inflation Reduction Act, which is probably the worst name in the world to have. But what it allows you to do is leverage tax equity or tax credits into a project. So if everybody's familiar with the headlines where you see Facebook, Google, or a lot of the tech companies, they buy 100 megawatts worth of solar or 100 megawatts worth of wind. Typically what they're doing is they're taking their taxable income at the federal level, they invest it into an energy project, and then they're selling themselves back energy at a low rate. So if you look at let's say you got $1 million project, the tax credit on that is somewhere between 30% to 50%. That means that they're going to invest $300,000 to $500,000 with taxable income. They don't owe taxes that year. They also get the depreciation benefit on the entire project, and they get to sell themselves cheaper power. But on an infrastructure basis, if we do that at the community level, that means that the community has new upgraded infrastructure and lower cost of energy. And that's what we, you know, that's what we do at the larger community level, is we utilize those tax credits. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Got something going on.
Yep.
Join us.
You should have control again.
There we go. So I had to throw this in. We actually did this. We have a group that we're working with that does mid-rise and high-rise constructions, and they wanted to be able to show that you could land an EV toll on top of a high-rise. We had this graphics built, but it's an example of basically building the infrastructure into a project. Now, within this project, we have a company that we work with that manufactures a solar paver. The paver can withstand up to 5 tons of pressure. You could drive a truck on it. Super, super durable, always generates energy, but we can build it into the landing pad for an EV toll, and you can power that EV toll. We also have a LED technology you can build into it. So you've got your lighting controls, you've got your energy generation at the site. We can build battery storage along with it. So you've got your always on power for that EV toll when it comes in and lands. We're doing the same thing in parking lots where we're putting in a paver into a parking lot. You can park your vehicle, you can charge your vehicle, and the infrastructure basically becomes part of the fueling operation of the site. And then again, we're utilizing tax credits and equity or debt essentially to finance that project. And we're providing power at a lower cost than typically the utility can provide, or we're providing excess power into the grid or into the community. And this is kind of like a larger example where, what we've got is a transport center that's charging buses and fueling transportation. And then the excess power is providing power for city hall, police department, school, fire department. Because typically when we're providing power at a microgrid, we have to provide power at maximum capacity. That means that when the load is the highest, when you're running your air conditioner and you've got all the lights on and everything else, we're providing power at that load. What that means is in the off hours, you've got that excess capacity. That excess capacity can go into the grid and do what's called virtual power, where you take that power and you provide it into another customer at a rate that's equal or less than what they're paying. And that's, kind of distributed storage and distributed energy generation allow you to do that. And these are relatively new but proven technologies. Everybody knows that solar works. Everybody understands that wind works. Battery storage and thermal storage and some of the other things have started to come down in price, and coupling it with technology enables you to distribute that power and distribute that load into a market at a super competitive rate, especially when you get up into larger scale projects. And then we have a lot of added benefits because we're generating the power at the site. We're monitoring all the power. We've got ESG reporting capabilities, so we can report what the carbon footprint is. We can report what your fuel consumption is. We can go from what's called scope 1 to 3, so we can tell you what your footprint is at your building level, all the way down into your transportation level if needed or if required. And that's us.
Cool. Time for a couple questions for Bill.
Can you talk about the mechanism for getting the carbon tax credits? Like, is there a market or
there's
bespoke contracts?
So the credits themselves, we have to verify them what's under what's called gold standard or verified carbon standard typically. And we're working with global markets. So right now, a lot of the big tech companies and even the oil companies are buying carbon credits to offset what they're creating on one end. So there's NASDAQ bought a platform that trades carbon credits right now called Puro Earth. So you can onboard your credits through that. There's also groups that are essentially acquiring these credits and then reselling them into the market. When you verify them correctly and you have a high quality credit, a carbon credit can go from anywhere between $50 a ton up to $1,000 a ton. So it's dramatically different depending upon who you're selling it to, the type of credit that you're generating. And then there's also carbon offsets. So the credit is created in our projects where we're taking waste and turning it into something. The carbon offset is created if we're powering a vehicle, we're creating an offset in that side. those are at a different value. And here in California, they have a different value than they might have in Texas. They have different value than they might have globally. But there's multiple different markets that are emerging for the carbon credits and the carbon offsets. Yes, sir.
You mentioned earlier the demands of vehicle fueling and charging, and you also mentioned storage. You know, a lot of these green technologies for production are diurnal. What are your thoughts on vehicle to grid? And is it going to be a good thing or a helpful thing or not?
Yeah, no, it will be. It's still really early, but it's going to be one of those things that I think consumers have to pay attention to on their license agreement. You know, like you sign up and, oh, you click the button. Well, I didn't know that I agreed to let my vehicle battery get drained overnight because the grid needed it. And so, you know, you're going to have to pay attention to that. You know, it's also going to be dependent upon the vehicle warranty as well, right? But there's already V2G, and I know the 3CE guys know just as much or more about it than I do, but there's already V2G projects that are in place in California in different markets. It's still fairly new. And, you know, I guess the regulations haven't been written yet in some markets, and the technology hasn't been approved by some of the vehicle manufacturers as well. But, you know, if you are looking at charging, especially in a commercial application, you should build V2G in up front. You don't want to have to retrofit it in 3 or 4 or 5 years and pull all that infrastructure out and then put it back in.
Sure, Chris. What communities are you currently working with, and sort of what's the typical, you know, criteria for that community? Because it's like a kind of a large solution for a
so we work with we have a couple residential developers that we're working with where we're just doing like solar storage and EV charging in communities. We have a project down in Kern that's supposed to start at the beginning of the year that's with a Native American group that we're putting in a solar array at the community center with an EV charging station, and then the excess power is going to power about 50 homes in that community. Our largest project is a 10,000 acre site in Kansas. It's an intermodal port. It's got like 750,000 square feet of commercial industrial buildings. That site has, in the first phase, it has like 60 megawatts of solar. It's going to have several gigawatts of wind, large scale storage.
Is it a Greenland kind of thing? Is it like, so you guys go into undeveloped areas?
No, it's a former military base, kind of like this, where it was taken over, but they wanted to have a green industrial park. And so we started working with them, and we're basically behind the grid, which means we're inside of the substation. And so we're generating, the site's actually scaling up to produce hydrogen at large scale, and they need literally gigawatts of energy, which is more power than all of Monterey County takes. And the grid can only provide a certain amount of that. And so we're generating as much possible at the site, but then we're connected to the grid. So we're pulling power from the grid or providing power into the grid as that project scales up.
Great to get your update, Bill. Question about your way of including new technologies in the project, and then the requirement of bankability that typically the financing language just really dichotomy and inhibits progress or slows it down. What's your take on that?
I mean, so like everything we're using is bankable product somewhat. Some of the waste to hydrogen technology is a little bit newer, but we're working with very large engineering firms that have built similar systems in the past, and then we have reinsurance on the equipment, and then we have performance insurance on the project itself that guarantees the engineer signs off on it, and then they're guaranteeing a certain amount of performance out of that equipment over the period of time, and it's about a 2% cost of the overall project. So there's an add to it, but it's it's essentially a built-in suspenders from the finance requirement.
Cool. Very good. Thank you very much. Wow, there's a place of the future. All right, well, let's see here another part of the future from Gabe Ruiz of Central Coast Community Energy, bringing clean energy to all of us and to companies on the Central Coast region. Slides are right there. Yep. Oh, that's good. There you go.
So back to follow as well. So I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Gabe Ruiz. Again, a senior commercial accounts manager with Central Coast Community Energy. Really the goal of our agency, we are a public agency, but is really to provide clean and renewable energy to the communities that we serve, right? And we're taking the revenue that we generate and reinvesting that back into the infrastructure and various programs. Really what to understand about a CCA, and then it's the Community Choice Aggregate. One of the, you can see here that we serve all the CCAs. There's 23 within the state of California right now, primarily along the coast. But for the region that we serve, you're going to see a lot in the Bay Area, a lot in LA, and we kind of run just right down the Central Coast. Really what this does is it gives to the 200 plus communities that are part of CCAs, it really just empowers them to, one, decide where your energy comes from. So the energy that is serving your community, what sources is that coming from? We get to decide that. And then a lot of that also is, how we want to reinvest that money back into the community. I think the biggest difference, the investor-owned utilities, they have, they have programs that have to serve a large number of customers, where we are more community focused, right? We can kind of work on two different ends of the scale there. The way that our relationship works is that for us, again, we go out and we procure the energy, right? So we'll go from various sources of clean and renewable energy, and then whether you're in PG&E territory or Southern California Edison territory, we work with both investor-owned utilities. They are the delivery mechanism. And then, of course, it comes to you as the customer, as it usually does. So you're going to see us basically on your bill. You'll see that for customers in this area, PG&E is going to be the transmission and distribution portion of the bill, and Central Coast Community Energy is going to be the generation portion of the bill. You used to be one bundled customer, but now it's just an extra page, but providing, again, reinvestment back into the community and savings. Just quickly here, just kind of the expansion. This is how we've grown March 2018 through our last enrollment in January of this year. Really what we're finding is you can see the growth. People are seeing the value in being part of the CCA. They see the money that comes back into the community, the savings and the rates on the generation side of the bill. So it has been a steady growth. We are nearly at, serving the entire Central Coast. We have, you can see 34 cities and counties throughout the Central Coast that we serve. Really the most important part, for me, when you look at this is the region that you're looking at here. We are the largest CCA geographically in the state of California. So of all of 23, we are the largest of load. I'm sure we're probably like 4 or 5 would be my guess. But that's a very diverse community that we serve. I mean, you look at the communities there up and down the Central Coast. So we have relationships in all kinds of different chambers, business communities, for myself, farm bureaus, so we maintain a lot of those relationships throughout the entire Central Coast. We're really making sure that people, businesses, residents, we work with a lot of CBOs as well, community-based organizations, just to make sure that the word gets out about, one, being a customer and the benefits of being a customer and various programs that we offer. So a little bit just about the way that we are governed. We are a public agency. So as a public agency, our board, we have a policy and operations board. These boards are made up of your county supervisor, city manager, mayors, really anybody who from the city is appointed, or the county. The way that it works is that any community over 50,000 people has a standing seat. So they have a continuous voting seat on our boards, and then the communities with less than 50,000 have a shared seat. So they can determine, who's going to be on the board, how long they're going to be on the board. That's really up for those groups to determine there. And then also we have a community advisory council. So the Community Advisory Council is made up with really of people that have close ties to the community, whether it is, really to our residents and business community as well. So they're, the ties that they have within each of their individual communities really allows us to address the issues that they need, not only by working with our elected officials on our operations and policy board, but also working with the Community Advisory Council. So our energy program. So when I talk about the reinvestment back into the community, this is a big part of that. You can see the increases that we made to our energy programs over the years. We've changed a lot of these programs. Electrify Your Ride, we've had, this is the 4th year of it, and this is, I think, the 3rd variation of the program itself. So we're constantly changing, and that is based on the feedback that we're getting from residential, from business communities, and a lot of our large customers as well. We have, with the school bus electrification program right now, we have 21 school buses that are funded and getting ready. Only, I believe, 4 have been delivered at this time. Supply chain issues, of course, right? So, but glad to say that within our communities, we're going to have 21 electric school buses. The ag electrification program, that has steadily grown over the years. But that's a program that, obviously in our community, and going back to the map, you see the communities that we serve, that's a very important customer segment to us. So we spend a lot of time making sure that the design of this program is fair. We have additional incentives for small to medium businesses that are in the ag industry, but also strategic in a way that we can work with our large ag customers to make sure that they have the infrastructure needs that are required for them to make that push to all electric. Electrify Your Home is actually a new program that we offered. So this is for HVAC, electric water pumps. That's where it's a state program that we've basically invested this money into, and it just requires your electrician, your contractors, whoever it might be, to sign up for the program, and then there's money there for you. I myself just purchased a house, and I am very much looking forward to taking advantage of that because it needs a lot of work, and I'm going to be taking advantage of a lot of the funds there in order to do that. A new construction, that is affordable all-electric housing. So a lot of the affordable housing projects, we've done different partnerships. We've had in Santa Cruz County, Monterey County. We're looking at other projects in other counties south of us as well. But that is something that really has been from the feedback that we've gotten from elected officials, people on our board, and also the community, the need. So we have a new construction electrification program. We added in the affordable housing as being a criteria to get funding for that program. But also we've opened it up now this year to farm worker housing and as well as ADUs. And then the REACH code, that's something that we're working on with our member agencies. Member agencies, again, are the cities and counties that are involved in our GPA. So this is something just to help them along. How do we implement changes within our building codes to help incentivize and prioritize building all electric? And then member agency services. This is another one here that really around our cities and counties, when they're looking to electrify their fleet, when they're looking to add in charging stations, when they're looking at electric street sweepers, garbage trucks, right? Those are all real projects that are going on in our communities. And we are part of that, the rebates and the funding and reserving some funding for them to go ahead and work that into the budget and the whole process that needs to be taken there. But also we provide technical assistance in, I would say, half of these programs. So that is something new to our energy programs portfolio in general. So a lot of times people want to take these programs on, but how are we going to do that? I don't have time. There's not somebody dedicated to it. So technical expertise is something that we're also providing with these programs. Just a couple things I'll highlight here. We have a 94% enrollment within our service area. We have dedicated over $27 million to energy programs. We've saved our customers over $50 million in that time that we have begun service. We have a $25 million resiliency fund. This is basically an insurance bucket for you. If anything goes wrong, we can dip into this bucket to help. If we have, rates go out of the roof, whatever it might be, we can dip into this bucket, which we did do during COVID. We saved our customers within the months of May and June 2020. We cut everybody's rates, your business, residential, by half, and we paid for that out of this resiliency fund. So we've increased our clean energy, our renewables, and we received an A credit rating from the S&P. We were the first CCA of 23 CCAs in the state to receive that A credit rating. So our ultimate goal is to get to 100% clean and renewable energy. From this, I would say, right now we are on track. Our goal is to get there by 2030. We have a halfway point of providing all of our energy coming from clean and renewable sources by 2025, 60% of that coming from clean and renewable sources. And we are on track for that right now. So if you look at the blue line, this is a lot of projects. We had several projects that came online this year. We have several more that are coming online next year. And you can see how the blue line for us flattens out there. So these are the executed power purchase agreements. We're going to have more that we are going to be executing from here on through 2023 to reach that 100% goal. And I think just one thing to note is that it is above and beyond the state's goal of providing, getting to that 100% clean and renewable. And just last slide here, just to touch on is that, right now we do have choices. So we're working towards by 2030 to provide all of our customers with 100% clean and renewable. But if there is, you want to say, hey, I can go out right now and through Central Coast Community Energy, make sure the energy that I consume comes from 100% clean and renewable sources. So that's our 3C prime option. We have seen a huge uptick in that from a lot of our commercial businesses. I think a lot of it goes to what their, what their boards might be, mandating that they follow. We need to have, make sure our energy comes from 100% clean and renewable sources. We can go out and source that for them. And please take a look at our website for more information. And of course, happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Great overview. I like to put these two thoughts together for a vision of the future, right? Because resiliency in California is a distress topic. When I look at the electricity bill, actually more than 50% was availability charges, poles and wires, huge cost savings. And industry as a peak demand charge. I think in the future, when we in large scale deploy resilient microgrids, we really don't need poles and wire, but policy needs to change. So what do you see over the next decade is your trajectory by making utilities as whole as they get by actually still shifting towards a true resilient future?
Yeah, I think for us, as a public agency, there is only so much that we can do, right? We know that there is going to be, the advancement of technologies that have happened in the last few years is, my background is, and I've shared with you, my background is in ag. So coming into this, I have learned a lot. And the technology and the shifts that are happening and how quickly that is happening, the fact that I'm involved in it every day, I get to see it, but Bill knows, so it's shifting quickly. I think on our end, when there's, we don't set policy, right? We're basically here to support and reduce the financial burden that may go to our customers and our communities. Because again, our board are the elected officials. They are, county supervisors, city managers. They want to make sure that the money that we are reinvesting back into the community is useful. Really, that's we make, with our focus towards infrastructure. I really think we're going to see big changes in the coming years in that area alone. But again, for us, it's we are limited as a public agency to what we're able to do.
Thank you.
How much of the investment in public investment is going to vegetation management? So PG&E's infrastructure has probably every major major wildfire in Northern California. Do you guys have anything? Whereas I have a city-owned utility and they literally last week came and trimmed my trees. How much of that do you guys do?
We don't. I think, again, our focus is how can we put money back into the community? And that is a great way, but there's already somebody doing that, right? PG&E, right?
They're supposed to be doing it.
I won't go there, but the idea is, I think for us is, we don't maintain the infrastructure. And one thing I was clear on is that, PG&E is a delivery mechanism for us. So that, anytime that, which they've taken on, that is their responsibility to do so. Yeah. Where our focus is really putting the money back in your pockets, free money, right? I mean, that's really what we're giving away in our programs. If you buy an electric vehicle, show us proof of purchase, we send you a check.
Do you think you'd ever consider taking care of some of because that money doesn't matter if my house burns down or people lose their lives, and that is what happens, especially like in Santa Barbara County and parts around here.
Yeah, I from what I can say, no, that's not something that I think is on the table for us right now. But as I think our focus is definitely around infrastructure. And again, it's that is something that PG&E maintains. Those are their lines. So I think, that responsibility is theirs. Yeah. Back share one for you.
Do you source waste to energy projects?
I think it's been looked at. That is a great power supply team question. Yeah, I know that it has been discussed, it has been looked at. There's some activity happening in that area in San Benito County, but nothing that we've committed to. Yeah.
Just as a consumer, so the individual lives in the area, but I don't, and it's probably on your website, so I apologize. I go on it. So how are you guys finding it? So you say we give this money, this money. How do you get your money?
Yeah.
And then maybe I have to read my PG&E bills better. Yeah. Right after my cable bill, which I probably shouldn't even have. But so it's in there. So it's the ratepayers that are paying you guys. You get a portion of that.
Yes.
And then if I want to somehow get it, take advantage of that, what do I have to do as the consumer?
Yeah. So I'll start with, we have historically on our rates, what we did is we provided a percentage discount. We just called it the IOU minus model, where we would basically, whatever the investor-owned utility rate was on generation, we would provide a percentage discount to that. So our rates were always cheap, right, every month. And so now what we're doing is we moved to a cost of service model, okay? So really what's happening is that you're paying your bill, roughly 90% of what you pay is what it costs us to go out and buy the energy for you. Then that 10%, 4% of that is to our energy programs, 3% of that goes into the Resiliency Fund, and then another 3% for administrative fees, right? Salaries, keeping the lights on. But where the money began is that we took out loans from the original counties and cities that enrolled, and we had 3 years to pay that money back. We paid it back in 18 months.
So I'm automatically in it. I can't opt in or out. It's because the city elected to be part of this.
That's
and
correct.
so automatically on my bill, it's happening.
Yes, and the reason before that, I mean, to be quite honest, there is the option to opt out. Right? You can absolutely do so. But in terms of what will happen to your bill, cost will increase. You won't be able to take advantage of any of our programs. Right now, you're a dual customer, you're a shared customer. So any energy programs PG&E has, any energy programs that we have, you can take advantage of both. Okay. If you choose not to be our customer, then you can't take advantage of our programs.
Great, thanks.
Thank you very much. All right, and final presenter, Wyatt Maysey, has returned to CSUMB, his triumphant return to CSUMB, to talk about a really incredible project that Taylor Farms has got going up in San Juan Bautista. All yours, Wyatt.
Thank you. Yeah, as Brad stated, I'm Wyatt Maysey. I'm the Director of Sustainability at Taylor Farms, which means I oversee all of our corporate strategy and do a lot of the project management roles for any energy projects we want, water conservation, waste reduction, etc. So what I'm going to give you a brief background in case you don't know who Taylor Farms is. A lot of people see a presence here in Salinas, but we do have a nationwide presence. We're in $5 billion in revenue as a company. We're a maker of 1 in 3 salads consumed in the US and Canada. We operate in 3 market segments, which is a little different. You might know us for our chopped salads, but we also do deli and food service. So home ready meals, frozen burritos, gas station, convenience, fresh food. It goes much deeper. We have over 22,000 employees or team members. We operate with over 200 independent family-owned growing partners. So also, fun fact, we're not really the grower. We contract a lot of our growing. We do today have an internal grower, which is one of the largest organic growers in the nation, but that's probably only about 15 to 20% of our total raw product. And we have over, we operate in 14 growing regions and do 10 million in annual community spend a year. In terms of sustainability, which is really where a lot of the clean energy strategy and energy strategy was born, we communicate this in 3 pillars: our healthy environment, healthy business, and healthy community. So if you don't know what ESG is, it's the framework for how you communicate a more sustainable operation or what you're doing to become a more sustainable operation. And we've stuck to the traditional people, planet, profit kind of, but this is how we communicate our sustainability strategy. And the environmental strategy falls within the resource conservation and healthy environment pillar. So within energy, we have 3 primary targets here. We want to first increase renewable and alternative energy consumption. We want to reduce energy intensity, which means we want to just become more efficient with the energy we do use, not just about sourcing it properly, but how well do we use it. And so you always want to make an intensity. You want to compare it to some sort of context of your operation. That is production for us, pounds produced. And then we want to reduce scope 1 and 2 emission intensity. That is our primary focus. Scope 3, we pretty much are the scope 3 for a lot of our customers. So we do have a scope 1 and 2 focus if you're familiar with GHG inventory. So some practices we focus on. One, again, is the sourcing issue. Not just if you're getting renewable energy, low carbon is a player in this space. If you're familiar with markets, renewables can be difficult, especially when you're dealing with large energy loads, which we'll talk about in a minute. A big one I want to bring up is, I know it's clean energy form, but enhance reliability and resiliency of our energy. We're big facilities that operate 24/7 essentially, so any downtime can be pretty detrimental. So resiliency is a big issue. And I think that's another conversation. We're constantly talking about sourcing, but resiliency might be a bigger issue here. How local is your generation? That's a play here in sustainability of energy. Self-generated power, we do have a focus on self-generated power. As a company, we take pride in that. We do a lot of capital expenditure towards it. We feel that is that strategy, again, to a more resilient and reliable source of energy. Usage, we want to understand our operations detailed energy consumption. You know, that may sound obvious, but it's a lot harder than you may think. A lot of our facilities are acquired through acquisition. So we've never built the infrastructure. We have to go into that facility. And technology is still, it's great. It can be costly, and getting that granular energy consumption data might not be beneficial to your production teams, super beneficial to me, but I have to make a case for it, an economic case for it. So that's a difficult task sometimes. And transportation, we do want to reduce transportation miles and prioritize fuel efficient and electric transport. So our current portfolio today, we have 9 solar arrays in our network. We have 1 wind turbine and 2 fuel cell installations and 1 cogen engine. Altogether, we're generating about 57 million kilowatt hours of renewable and low carbon energy a year. And then coming soon, we do have 3, actually, 1 was just completed today. In our Baja facility, a solar array, so we have 2 more on the way. We have 2 fuel cell installations coming and 1 battery, which we're about to get to. If you looked at energy, so EPA has what they call an energy, I think it's called the Green Power Partnership. If you looked on that in terms of a categorization of ag and natural resources, we are the #1 self-generator in the US. We're not technically in the program, but I will be applying for it this fall. But so that's a pretty big feat for us. So what I'm really here to talk to you and why Brad invited us today is we have a project going at our San Juan Bautista facility. Potentially it has potential to be one of the largest non-utility microgrid projects in the world to, again, potentially operate in complete island mode, which means we could cut the cord from PG&E and be completely self-reliant. So our facility load is about 5.5 megawatts today. This is the old Earthbound facility. If any of you are familiar with acquisition, we acquired this facility in Earthbound. It's 450,000 square feet, so this is not a small feat. This project is coming in at roughly $30 million investment. And so we're taking a big risk here, but again, this isn't so much as it is a renewable play as much as a resiliency play. This facility is extremely important in our network of fresh food, and we need consistent, reliable power. So the makeup and design of this project, we're going to do 6 megawatts of fuel cells, which they operate on natural gas, which we know is not 100% renewable. It is a low carbon alternative. It's a chemical breakdown of natural gas into its hydrogen form. And so, yes, we understand that concept. Again, this is a resiliency play as well. We have 1.2 megawatt of parking structure solar today. It's completely installed, and we're working on 0.8 megawatts. There's a conversation of, are we going to roof mount it or ground mount it? That gets complex as well. We have 2 megawatts of battery storage going in, which could supply about 5 megawatt hours of energy. And then 1 microgrid controller, which in microgrid world, I'm quickly learning, this is the master key. The microgrid controller really talks about when you're dealing with a microgrid and especially different assets, multiple assets, it's like an orchestra. You need a good conductor to know when certain energy assets need to be deployed. So the microgrid controller really is probably the most important piece here. And this is still a pretty new field. We're using a company called SEL, buyout from what we know. And I maybe should consult with Mavericks, but is kind of the player in the game in terms of microgrid controllers. So and this level and scale of a project. So this kind of just gives you a picture of where things will go today. The fuel cells, battery, and microgrid controller will be in the bottom right. The PG&E substation is located down there as well. Our parking structure solar has been completed, and then we'll probably put this solar as a ground mount as of discussion this week over in this corner as well. And there's potential to expand. We'll see. We're probably, if anything, we'll be doing more solar and larger battery storage. The fuel cells will remain at 6 megawatts. So some learnings here. Again, I'm not an electrical engineer, so this is a brand new field for me as well. But in order to best design a system like this and at the scale, operations really need to understand granular insight. And I said this a little bit before, but this old facility coming into it, we found out we don't have a lot of control over our system. Two ways. One is actual control, segmenting certain mechanical equipment and energy use within the facility, and then as well as actually measuring it. Today, you probably just operate off of your 1 meter that PG&E has. But if you're going at projects like this and really having to control certain systems within it, machine lines or HVAC systems, you need control capability, being able to understand where am I going to prioritize. If we do have some sort of system failure, do we need to prioritize refrigeration? Maybe we can shut down offices, et cetera. But that level of control needs to be there as well, and that's also a complex struggle. The microgrid controller should lead the design efforts. We found this out. It was a little hard learning, but again, that conductor is really going to understand and know what assets need to be deployed. For instance, we're experiencing a sizing issue. We may have to increase size. The microgrid controller will really tell us where we need to increase assets. Is it more fuel cells, or more solar, is a larger battery? Generally, if you're going through your vendors, they're going to obviously be a little biased and push their technology. So that microgrid controller is really, really, really important piece. And it also has to do with asset harmonization. So if say we're putting solar and fuel cells in multiple technologies, how they play together is extremely important, and how they create harmonization. So that's really going to dictate how reliable and resilient that project is and that energy supply. And then the system can work in reverse. So we're also seeing potential here that if we do cut the cord, there's an export only capability where during times of need where we have brownout potential or PSPS events, we'll be able to support the local community and actually export energy to the grid and still not be technically grid connected. And with that, take it easy on me with questions.
Thanks, Wyatt. It's really great to see you're pushing island mode. But I was wondering about your, when you pushed resiliency as a core concern, was it part of risk modeling as a company, or were there actual failures that you've experienced that were clear and present danger that you now in hindsight want to eliminate?
Yeah,
what's
more
the experience with that?
Yeah, more proactive risk mitigation and understanding the resiliency issue that we're currently experiencing. We constantly get messages to reduce that energy load at that facility. So knowing that we're not even at capacity nearly for production purposes. So knowing that we want to make plays here to increase production capacity, it was a risk mitigation, it was a proactive approach here.
I'm really interested in this partnership you put together. Can you say a little bit about the goals and the roles of each of the organizations in it?
Yeah, that was a learning point for us. So today we use Bloom Energy. That's our fuel cell provider. We have 2 installations with them today. We knew we were going to put fuel cells in this specific installation. It was never supposed to be off-grid island mode, actually. This was supposed to be probably about 50% of our energy load, like we do at our other 2 facilities. The size of where we were going, we knew that to make economic case for this, we needed to go bigger. You either size down or size up to make it play out. So we allowed Bloom, they proposed an off-grid island mode system, and they wanted to be more of the project management role here. So we allowed them to kind of take that control. They were going to acquire the battery, they were going to acquire the microgrid controller, and they brought in Ameresco. So Bloom is not your typical microgrid installer does the implementation. Ameresco has experience doing that. So Bloom brought in Ameresco for consultation. Concept Clean Energy is our solar provider. We are already doing solar in there in addition to, but now being that it was island mode, we had to bring all 3 entities together to really, again, that harmonization piece and understand, do we have the right amount of solar? Is it going to play right? Do we need a larger battery, et cetera? There's a brand there called SEL. They're not up there. They're the microgrid controller. They are typically should be in that Bloom Energy position where they're the designer because of their control system. They understand where the energy needs to deploy or what kind of assets you should be looking into to meet that load that you're trying to meet.
And was Taylor the organizer of this?
Yeah, so we have 2 engineers. I work with 2 electrical engineers on site, not on site, but in this project. So we take, if you will, we kind of take it as a consultation. We were actually directed to go with a different microgrid controller. We internally felt we didn't want that controller, so we went after the SEL, even though it was at a premium. So we let Bloom kind of take that project management role, but we still do our internal kind of due diligence and making sure this project is where we want it to be.
It struck me for years that Taylor, in the ag world, Taylor is playing effectively a different game than everybody else, and nobody else quite realizes that. And this is such a great example of it. I mean, what's Taylor doing in the energy field? You can see how critical it is to their growth strategy.
Yeah, it's so one of our biggest, I think, you'll hear Bruce constantly say it, it's creating an assured supply of fresh produce. That assured piece is really this, making sure we can deliver fresh produce to the consumer. And this is that strategy. It's not just great raw product sourcing, it's how you get that product to the table as well.
We have these funny things that happen in California called earthquakes on that. And so I'm just kind of thinking about this assurance and being proactive. Was there any earthquake hardening that was done? Because I know San Andreas kind of passes right through.
Yeah, especially in San Juan Bautista. Yeah, there was some on the fuel cells. We do have some precautions to take into account, natural gas shut-off valves, et cetera. So there were precautions taken into account. Actually, the bigger concern was flood zone. that specific facility kind of gets cut in a little bit by it. That's why we did parking structures pretty high up as well. And we had to raise some of the foundation. But yeah, that was definitely a concern. When we go through insurance, these fuel cells have to be some sort of system to take into account potential disaster like earthquake. So
Thanks.
John?
A quick question about how did you go about financing this? And if this is only for the San Juan Bautista site, do you see it scaling to your smaller partner growers or anything like that?
yeah, so most of our energy load is going to be at the production side, the facility level. We do have 2 installations on farm, but at this scale, this was a partial proof of concept. Can we take this to our 22 other facilities or 21 other facilities and make this an actual play there as well? Pricing wise, we've done a lot more activity in California, obviously because of those incentives. If you're looking in states like Kentucky and Tennessee, where they pretty much don't exist, so it's a harder, it's going to be a harder play there. Sorry, there was a second part to your question.
Oh, those are about,
Okay.
yeah, how do you go about financing?
Oh, financing.
And does it scale?
Yeah, so financing, we have a little bit of that. We actually partnered with Bank of America on this to do one of the first ESG linked financing. So not only are we going to finance it, Bank of America is providing the finance, but we have to meet 2 ESG set goals, which is energy intensity, which are green or scope 1 and 2 emission reduction, as well as we have a zero waste. I call it material management, not zero waste, but material management program going into this facility as well, which means our goal is to divert 90% of all of our waste generated there. So we're going to lower our landfill intensity as well. And so we have to meet those 2 objectives. It only came in at I think a 5% discount, but there was a linked financing, which was really interesting as well.
Thank you for having me. I've worked with Bradford and Monterey Bay for quite some years now through our Blue Tick Valley initiative that I'll talk about a little bit later. But as Brad mentioned, I'm Helle Petersen. I'm the director of the Water, Energy and Ag Technology Center, and we are located on Fresno State. I'm just going to move my bar over there a little bit. So what we do there at the WET Center, as we call it for short, is to work with entrepreneurs, innovators, small businesses, ventures that have an innovative idea in water, energy, and ag. And we work with them to help them commercialize it, bring it out to the marketplace. And that way we also are trying to find solutions to the industries that are very dominating in our area, which is ag and food processing for the most part. The project specifically that we work together with Monterey Bay is the Blue Tick Valley Energy Innovation Cluster. It's a program we started 5 years ago that's funded by the California Energy Commission. They set out to build 4 clusters, innovation clusters in California, with the goal of supporting entrepreneurs and innovators in their path to get their technology out to the marketplace. They realized if they're going to meet California's very bold energy goals, they needed to really put some power behind innovation and new technology and help remove a lot of those barriers that are between being an entrepreneur and actually see your product or service being in the marketplace. The focus that we work with under this program is anything that is around clean energy, renewable energy, climate change mitigation, fire prevention, and much, much more. Everything that really can benefit the California ratepayer can be part of this program. There is, beside the 4 clusters, and you can see I've kind of mapped them out in California there. There's one in San Diego, one around LA, and then there is a north, San Francisco and north of their area. And then the blue one is the Blue Tick Valley, which covers 39 counties in California. So we might not have the most people because the density of these areas, but we definitely cover quite a big geographic footprint, and that's why we are so depending on working with hubs like Monterey Bay and the area there to be able to connect with the local industry there with entrepreneurs, innovators, and build these regional hubs that can support entrepreneurs as well. There's also a couple of funding opportunities built into this program by the California Energy Commission, and I'm not going to go into details, but it's something you might make sure you pay attention to if you are looking for either very early stage funding or looking for testing your technology at a UCS at a test bed or a laboratory or in real life as well. So the Kelsey program is a $150,000 grant that you can apply for, and it is meant for prior to prototype or just around a prototype. So very, very early stage, really that stage where it's almost impossible to find any funding. The other one is Cal Testbed, where you can select a couple of UCs that fits with what you're looking for, has the technical expertise, the faculty, and or the facilities where you want to test your technology, and you can apply to get testing vouchers and carry out prototyping, testing, piloting in those facilities. I will mention with the Cal seed as well, if you get the 150, which is a grant, which means it's not diluted, you don't have to pay it back. You can apply for a second round of that, which is 450,000. That is to get just one step further in commercializing your technology. As I mentioned, we work with our hubs, which we are very grateful about being able to. Monterey is one of them, but you can see we cover all the way to Humboldt, Chico State, Sac State, Bakersfield, and the mountain range. And we also have a bunch of different partners. UC Merced, UC Davis, Berkeley. If you need any legal assistance, we're working with them to provide that, and a bunch of other organizations. Just really a rich ecosystem that just makes it possible for us to connect entrepreneurs to many different resources. We're also part of other networks. Of course, Fresno State, we have our university laboratory, which is mostly geared towards ag, but it can also be energy solutions that are relevant to ag, and of course, our faculty and students. We're part of UC Agriculture and Natural Resources Vine Network, which is also a network for entrepreneurs, mostly around food and ag. And lastly, we are heading up the Central Valley Innovation Ihop, which is funded by the GoBiz office, but same thing, just providing that extra support for innovators and entrepreneurs in our region. And a little bit about the Wet Center and the programs we are offering that I'll be happy to chat with any of you about if you are interested or need for any of these types of assistance. We have our technology innovation evaluation, which is where we take early stage technology and we evaluate it with a set of subject matter experts, just to give the innovator an idea of, do you really have something here that's worth continuing putting your time and money in? And if you do, what would those next steps be for you to make it just that one step further to commercialization? It can be you might want to get a prototype, or you might want to get it tested, or you should look for a demo, or you need to most likely find some money, and how can we maybe help you do that? It's on a limited basis. We take applications as they come, set the team together and the panel, then we go from there. Then we have a Cohort Accelerator program that we run right now. Actually, we are in our 7th cohort, and it is a set group of, we have, I think, 10 entrepreneurs in this cohort, and it is a fairly competitive program where you need to put in an application, and you have to have, we're really targeting that you have a minimal viable product. You might even have some IP, some early market traction, or at least maybe an indication that there's a good product market fit with this technology, and really where you want that stage where you can grow. Because a lot of what we teach here is how to identify opportunity, how to grow your sales, develop your sales funnel, how do you just generate your customer base, how do you look for investment, how do you get investment ready, how do you build industry partnerships? And in order to do that, you need to have a technology that's pretty ripe for the market at that point. Together with with our Valley Ventures Accelerator, we also have advisory services. It's also something we work with one-on-one with entrepreneurs that are not necessarily in the accelerator, but have a very specific need. We have about a roster of, I think, 20 different consultants we work with, and we pay them out of our program because we sometimes believe that while a lot of people want to get back and mentorship services at no cost is great, but sometimes you get what you pay for. So we have chosen that model where we pay for these professionals to provide very concrete advice to the entrepreneurs. It can be maybe developing that sales funnels I talked about, the growth strategy, just knowing specifically about an industry, how do you get in that? So really working one-on-one. It can be anything for 2 to 12 months, depending on the scope of work that we establish in the beginning and what those milestones look at. I said here there's a cost, so that depends on if you are in our region, which is the 39 counties I just shared. It is, there's no cost associated with that program or with the Valley Ventures as well. It is what we are paid to do through our funders for specific companies in your area. And then we have, it's the last thing we offer is a membership to the Wet Center, which is a very, I think, I can't remember what it, but I think it's $100 a year or something, but it's just to be part of the Wet Center. You can use our facility if you need it. If you're in the area, just get exposure through what we are doing. As well. So those are the things that we offer. So we try to have a little bit of something for everything, for everybody. And then we are launching a new program this spring as well. That's more of a virtual business development module as well. So you don't have to be, you can do it at your own time. Some of the companies that we have worked with, I just thought that might be interesting just to see the breadth of it. And I'm not going to go into details, and some of them you might already know, but Nitricity, they're actually a bunch of PhD from Stanford, but they've developed a mechanism or a technology where they use renewable energy to take nitrogen out of atmospheric air and then use that as fertilizer. Which is very interesting. They've done a lot of testing around our farm, and it's very promising so far to just be able to produce and deliver fertilizer in a different and more sustainable way. Ag monitor, ag irrigation control and resource management for farms. They're very active actually in the Salinas area as well. So they definitely know that area well. Buff Control is actually a company that came to us from Brazil and are now have an office in our wet center, actually the largest office because they keep growing, but they are doing management of dairy operations, resource control, and also herd management. And then they're also dipping into carbon removal and carbon credits in that segment also. They actually call it cryptocarbon, and I'm not completely sure what that is, but they are growing very much, and it's very interesting to see. Cloudformatics are Sacramento based, and they have AR to predict climate patterns and really looking to see if they can come up with proactive climate predictions to help them plan for the future or plan for upcoming harvest or planting or whatever it might be. So that's very interesting as well. And Membrion has a water cleaning system as well. So just we work with a wide range of companies, and I think these ones are good examples of that. A little bit about our numbers. So we do pretty extensive reporting every 6 months to the California Energy Commission. And over the last 5 years, the companies we worked with, which is about 70 that's gone through the 6 cohorts. We've already gone through our accelerator, but then we probably worked with another probably 100 beside that has touched our programs in different ways. They raised over 200 million in public and private funding. So we feel that's a very good number because that does reflect on how they're able to grow and how they're able to drive their revenue. We have created almost 600 jobs as well, and of course patents and other demonstration projects and things like that. We're also very happy to see that 20% of our C-suite are filled with women, and we are very focused on trying to get a diverse group of entrepreneurs to work with, either minority, people from disadvantaged communities, women, obviously. So we do track that as well. And let me see here. I won't go down. And this is just our team that are here. We just hired a new person, Samuel. That's why his picture is not here. We haven't gotten that far, but I just thought I'll give them a little bit of airtime as well, because they do really well, and none of us could do this without being a team. So if you want to connect with me, this is my email address, and you can also check out our website, the Wet Center. Obviously, Valley Ventures is our accelerator. Blue Tech Valley is the innovation cluster we work with Monterey Bay on, or you can follow us on any of the social media platforms as well. So if you have any questions or comments, happy to answer.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Any questions for Helle? If you want to get in touch with them, we'd be happy to connect you with them. We've connected several companies from the area with them, and it's great services. And as she said, there's grant money available there, plus fabulous advising. So I really, if you're working in this space, water, energy, ag tech, I strongly recommend that you reach out to them, and we can help with that. Yes.
The California Manufacturing Alliance was a really good lead from Wet Center. That was much appreciated for all the hard tech.
Yeah, excellent. Cool. Thank you very much, Helle. Appreciate you zooming in. Zoom. Here we are. All right. Let me get my slides back up here. Just a sec. Let's see. How do I need to do this? I got to remember what I'm doing here. I think I need to share my screen. And then I need to come back here to that slideshow mode. Make sure the steering wheel is working. Okay. What I'd like to finish with is for our presenters tonight, I'd like to ask them each one question to say, from your point of view, from what you're working on, what are you seeing as the most needed innovation to make clean energy really successful going forward? What's needed most next? Let's start with microgrids.
I think Bert hit on it. It's the grid infrastructure. You know, the reality is that, and I think somebody else talked about it as well, is PG&E hasn't upgraded their infrastructure in a long time. And so I think Wyatt would say the same thing, when you're connecting to the grid, a lot of times you have to pay for the infrastructure upgrade on their side of the fence, so to speak. And it's not only is it costly, but it takes a lot of time in dealing with the utility from that upgrade perspective. And I think probably CCE deals with it from solar farms as well. When they have a big solar farm, typically you can go build that farm, and then you got to wait for the grid to be ready to accept that power.
Yeah, it's like a friend of mine who manages a whole lot of grapes in southern Monterey County, and they're electrifying their tractors and everything. And the grid stuff is a nightmare. So absolutely, next generation of grid, I get it. Gabe?
I would say for us, it would be advancement in long duration battery storage. That's where right now we are working with cities and counties on that. We have 8 potential sites along the Central Coast where we are interested in doing that. But I think to alleviate the duck curve, that long duration battery storage is really going to play a key role in that.
Cool, got it. Batteries and Wyatt, where'd Wyatt go?
Yeah, to leave.
He had to leave. Oh, so we don't get the word from Wyatt, but I think he'd agree with both of those things, given what he's working on. Thank you very much to our presenters for the evening. Let's give them another round of applause. All the great work that they're doing, bringing these innovations to us going forward here. Remember, November 8th is our next Connect. We'll have another group of great companies for you. And absolutely don't forget the Monterey Bay Dart Symposium, November 30th, December 1st. And Sherry's got flyers. She will not let you leave without a flyer. So just go get one and make it easy on yourself. It's a great idea. Thanks to our sponsors and partners, the people who support all of us in our innovations. Thank you all very much for coming. It's been a wonderful evening for me. I hope it has been for you. And we hope to see you next month. Take care, everybody. Good night.